All right, viewers, welcome to another episode of Anything About Everything. Today, I have a structural engineer who did PhD in structural engineering. Her name is Ankitha. Let me add her to the stage. Hi, Ankitha. Welcome to the show.
Hi Raghu, how are you doing?
Good, good. First of all, I really want to thank you for hopping. It's already 9 p.m. You had a long day. Thank you for hopping on and taking time.
Oh, anytime for you. All right.
Thank you so much. And yeah, you have always fascinated me with your interests. Um, you are someone who has interest in a lot of different avenues, just not like, academics, but we can touch these topics one by one. My first question to you is which always has intrigued me. I've never asked you this, but which has always intrigued me. What got you into motorcycles?
Hmm. Okay, that's an interesting one to start off with. Yeah. Okay, so basically, when I moved in here, I came for the PhD directly, right? So, but before this, I was in Italy. So, I've been traveling a lot over there. So, to do research, you need to have some activity which calms your mind down, basically. So, whenever I travel around, it's like my leisure area. So, I go for hiking or something like which relaxes my mind so that I can focus better. So when I came in here, of course, like I couldn't do that much traveling around because it's PhD. So I needed some leisure time, like for the weekends, and also it has been a hobby for me to learn riding. So that's one of the biggest reasons I went into riding motorcycles. And the first one was pretty weird though. Like I did it on the streets, but but the crowd was too supportive. But I like then did the A1A, if you're aware of the beach roll in
Yes, yes,
Florida.
yes.
Yes. So that's where I found it, like the spot. I was like so happy with it. It helped me do better in life. So yeah.
And you studied in Italy, right? Prior to US?
Yes. I did my master's there.
So what is the lifestyle differences between US and Europe that you have seen, that you have gone through?
So there's a lot of difference actually. So, but in both ways, I was a student, so maybe it's better to compare easily. So, one thing in Italy is it's easy to travel around, like I said, and also I could say affordability. It's way easier, the life there. But here it's also busy and very tough to keep up with because you have so many opportunities. So you need to be on top of everything, you know. And yeah, I think that's the biggest difference I found. But apart from that, yeah, everything is like good. The people are good. It's a different culture here and there. But yeah, I keep up with them. So
Do you have any preference, or do you think it's equally good, or what do you think?
I think I'm fine with both of the places. But yeah, Europe has like a sweet spot for me always because that's where I first went in after India, right? So that's something like close to my heart. I have very good friends there. So yeah, I keep in touch with them on a timely basis. But yes, I love both countries. Like I can't choose one.
Awesome. Um, what was your research paper in structure? Okay, before I ask about that, what got you? Why did you want to choose structural engineering and PhD in structural engineering? It's not very common though.
Yeah, it is not. So, structural engineering, yeah, to start with that, like my whole family is into that basically, like civil engineering. So they've always been either into constructions or they've like worked towards a firm, like my uncles and all. But the biggest inspiration I would say is my dad. He was having like a construction company, and I think from my childhood I've been trained a bit under him, to see how he manages the constructions, the sites, and the area around. Like my grandfather and everyone are towards it. So yeah, that made me go towards structural engineering. But to be frank, I wanted to start off with architectural initially, but then somehow when I looked at the structures and all, it kind of intrigued me. I just shifted my scope. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. And at what age or what time, like, was it this when you were studying in Italy that you figured, okay, this is what I want to do, or what is how when was
Oh
it?
no, like I wanted to do engineering from a long time. So I took my diploma, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
We have something called the intermediate, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
didn't go for it. I went directly into diploma in engineering. And then for the bachelor's, master's, I just continued. And I think it was in the end of yeah, towards the end of diploma, like I got to know that we can also be a doctor in this field.
Hmm.
So from then I always aligned the points, and then I looked for professors whom I wanted to work under, who would suit me. So I just looked at the profiles and kept on traveling accordingly. So
Got it. Got it. Got it. It's amazing. Um, so, and what was your research paper in when you did PhD? What did you specifically study or do the paper on?
So when I was in Italy, actually, my main area was completely structural. So I was working towards dampers, earthquakes, seismic analysis, something
Mm-hmm.
like that. But as a part of the study, I had to do an internship in the US. So when I came here, it slightly shifted towards vibrations, like vibrations of structures,
Mm-hmm.
because I was working under a professor who was in mechanical engineering. But yeah, I learned a lot there. And then slowly, eventually, it moved to earthquake geotechnics. So my majority of the area was structural and geotechnical. So yeah, the paper, like the thesis which I worked on, was like structural and geotechnical, a combination of both of them. It was like deep foundation systems.
So it's mostly like structural foundations for
Mhm.
big buildings. Like when I say big buildings, huge
Yeah,
commercial buildings.
yeah, it
Correct?
could be for buildings, bridges, many areas, but it is
Got it.
mostly deep foundation systems. That
Got
was
it.
the
Got it.
focus. Yeah.
And you mentioned something about earthquake. Like what is that?
Okay, so when we construct like big buildings, of course, like there are some areas which are prone to earthquakes, right? So, but they still want to do it, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the challenges we face even today, like with the soil. So
Mm-hmm.
when there is an earthquake excitation, it's similar to a vibration. So
Mm-hmm.
vibration in a structure.
Got it.
So because of that, there's a ground movement which we need to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So like I mean, there is immense research in that area, but there is always a scope for improvement. So yeah, that's pretty much the focus. That's fine. So you can apply this for bridges, buildings, anything dealing with soil and deep foundation systems. My paper was like focusing on understanding these displacements due to these vibrations, the horizontal vibrations or the vertical effects. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's majorly focused on that.
Got it. And you got awarded recently as well. Was that for this thesis paper?
Yes, one of the papers like related to this work. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So there was like, okay, so before we do any research, we have to like immensely study what was already done in that area. So that's
Mm-hmm.
like a literature review. So we see around the literature and try to understand who did what and what we can do in the future. So I think in the beginning of the PhD, the very first thing everyone does, or in the beginning of the project, the very first thing people do is the literature study. So as a part of that, I did a literature study for my thesis, and I wrote a paper about the same. Yeah, and that got selected for the award by the ASCE. It's like society, a non-profit society for the civil engineers, which was like in the US since a long time, and they appreciate and acknowledge every researcher who works towards the industry, like practitioners, researchers. Yeah. So they found the paper to be very much useful to the practitioners to develop on the weak points or, focus more into that subject. So that was the primary reason for the award. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was called like the ASCE State of the Art of Civil Engineering Award.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, when
Thanks.
Arjun mentioned that, I was like, I'm super happy to hear that you got award, and it's not a small thing when you think about it, right?
Yes.
Um, yeah, that's awesome. So, you spoke about structural engineering,
Oh,
and
by the way, if you mention Arjun, I would also say one of the reason I'm into motorcycles is because of him. Yeah. I mean, my thought was always to just ride and learn it, but of course, he was the primary reason to push me into that. So,
Arjun, for the viewers, is one of my good old school friend, and he is Ankita's husband.
yes.
Uh, he's into motorcycle. He owns his own motorcycle garage, and yeah, he tells like there's no blood in him. It's just oil and grease in him.
That's true. I can smell it. Yeah.
Uh, Anyways, so. Coming back to the structural engineering part,
Mhm.
um, what what is the what is the future of structural engineering? Like, what do you think? How do you think the future technology is going to affect that? Like, how do you think the AI is going to affect that industry?
Okay, so this is like a very big question, even for us, to be frank.
Hmm.
So, structural engineering, I think, never dies, like you all know, because there is always new structures coming in, or we try to repair the existing ones, or we have to be innovative, creative to create something new, right, in structures. But AI is a big question for the researchers on how it's going to, impact our lives as well. Like
Hmm.
in the minds of designers,
Hmm.
in designing point of view, I would say. So, but there is like immense possibility for innovation, I feel,
Hmm.
because I worked with AI in my thesis, in fact. So, what I did there was like I've stored many models for the soil based on the vibrations it has been affected. Like, say, there was an area of field where it was subjected to a lot of earthquakes. So, what we did is we gathered all the information from around the DOTs and we fed into a model, like for training and all that purpose, and used ANN, of course, to come up with a model which will help us predict the displacement for future. So, this was like the introduction of AI into geotechnical or structural engineering both together. So I think based on that personal experience, it was super easy for me to kind of break out all the codes and get into something which was more easy to predict things.
Hmm.
So before we had certain ways to do it, but it included like long codes or analytical equations or something like that. This one was much easier, but of course you need some data for it. So I don't know, but like the larger scope in all areas, but I feel personally that it's going to be very useful, very innovative, and very impactful.
Got it. Got it.
Mhm.
Um, I've been reading up about these tiny homes where you can just raise four walls and build around it. What are your thoughts about those kind of structures, like where people can get a house done in like within 3 days? Like, how safe is it?
It is. I mean, they cross all the safety checks before they even come to the public. So that's where this research primarily comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So even at our level, like in the academia, we try to do the investigation in the lab to start off with. So
Got it.
in a structures lab or in a geotechnical lab, we try to understand the material that goes into it, the method, and the tests are already done in the
Mm-hmm.
labs.
Mm-hmm.
So only after it's proven safe, it moves out to the public. So yeah, it's pretty much interesting that they do it in 3 days. Yes, I've seen that too, and I think they are quite useful. I wouldn't really judge their safety because it's already,
Already.
past it.
Mm-hmm.
But there are uncertainties that may happen, due to some natural hazards which are unexpected. And I think we shouldn't be taking those into account. But
Got it.
yeah, leaving behind that, it's safe enough.
Okay.
Mhm.
And as a structural engineer, is there any buildings or construction that has been your interest and you want to study more about it, something exciting that you have figured out in that realm?
Yes, yeah. Actually, we are from India, so our structures are like so pretty old, like the
Yeah.
temples especially. So I've been traveling around a lot to those places to understand the architecture behind it or like the design behind it. It interested me a lot. And then when I went to Italy, that was like a step up. They were
Hmm.
also having like so many structures, like say the Colosseum, for example.
Hmm.
And when I visited Pisa, that's where I shifted focus actually. Yeah, now because you asked this question, this is really interesting for me.
Hmm.
So before it was only structures above the ground for me. But when I went to Pisa, I saw it was leaning. I didn't think much, to be frank. I was like, okay, this is a tourist spot, it's good. But when I went on the top of the tower, it's like a different perspective altogether. I was like, how did this lean? Then I was like, okay, I need to look into this. And that's where I understood soil is the reason that the forces, yeah, made it bend. That's where I connected structures to geotechnics, maybe. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. Yeah. I mean, a lot of structures like always excited me to like Taj Mahal, speaking about
Oh, yes.
India, or
Yes.
um oh my God, Eiffel Tower, right?
Yes. Yeah, those are all like marvelous things. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, for engineers who built that and thought about it and stuff, it's just like, mind-boggling for me to even fathom the fact that they came up with that structure, had that vision in their head, and said, "This is how it's going to look, and this is how it's going to be placed." And it's like a monument that the whole world is going to enjoy it.
Actually, interestingly, there's a temple. I don't know if you know in Varangal, the Thousand Pillars Temple, it's called.
I've
So
heard of it.
when I went there, and like we could get access to some of the sketches which were made in like the pretty olden era.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, they were showing us like how it was done, and I was quite impressed. Like they had a lot of things which they had access to even back then. If you
Mm-hmm.
see the drawings and all, they were super perfect. So I was like, okay, they just maybe didn't have this technology or resources to publicize it, but they were like supremely talented. So maybe that's the reason they're still standing and so perfect. That
Oh
could
yeah.
be. Yeah.
I completely agree with that. Like, I feel there is a lot of like, knowledge transfer that happens from one generation to another generation, or one set of evolution to another set of evolution. It's just over the period of time, maybe there's a what do you call, there's a block, or there's a blankness where one evolution couldn't pass on anything. When I
Mhm.
say anything, like anything written document saying, okay, this is what it did, this is how we did it. So
Mhm.
but the real structures are there, but there's no documentation. I mean, when I say no documentation, maybe it's destroyed, maybe it's not well preserved. So
Yes.
like you mentioned, there's amazing Indian temples that even I know of. It's like phenomenal, like how did they even come? And even talk about pyramids, right?
Oh, that's my biggest interest too. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a natural wonder, actually. I would say that.
Yeah. I mean, I was reading up, or I was looking up some YouTube video, and there's a conspiracy theory that aliens built it. That's how
Yes.
much new it is to us.
Yes. In fact, I have a friend from Egypt. Like when I was talking to him, when I told him this, he was like, okay, I didn't know that people had this kind of, feeling. But yeah, even they did a lot of research to understand how that was built. Like you said, yeah, the knowledge transfer should have been better preserved in this case because we would still do that great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, they are the strongest ones. And also, when I saw the Hoover Dam, I
Hmm.
was same way, like the same interest I got in, because as a part of my master study we had to like understand how to preserve structures. So
Hmm.
we did visit many temples and churches back in Italy as well. So as a part of that project we had to do some other countries structure as well. So I selected Hoover Dam. It's a lot of history. It's a lot of
There's a,
history, but what I felt is they preserved it enough so
hmm
for the people to understand what all they went through, and it was good. It was good to know.
It's amazing. And talk about PhD and writing papers.
Hmm.
Um, you once mentioned to me that you were pretty upset about how people think PhD is done, at least
Hmm.
nowadays. Everybody
Hmm.
thinks you put up the stuff on what ChatGPT, and then you
Yeah.
ask it to write, and it writes everything for you. You just put it in, you just polish it and then publish it.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts about it?
Okay, so yeah, this is very weird, like right now, because okay, one reason because of the technology, maybe I don't know, but I feel that education and research is like two diverse things right now,
Hmm.
at least. Because before it was, we didn't have access to this much technology like ChatGPT. We don't know if someone used it as well, right? In nowadays
Hmm.
generation. But research is something like innovative, and you cannot really use a medium to completely come up with something. It might aid you into getting into a certain level, but it cannot create something for you.
Totally.
So that's what I feel personally. But also, I think they are limiting the use of ChatGPT a lot because there is that feeling that the creativity in researchers' minds, will end. So, yeah, that's one of the reasons they are also not encouraging practicing it too much. But yes, I have had questions like, say, there were students who were asking me, okay, now I did this subject, like say bridge engineering, and they passed it, and they're like, oh, was super easy. This is just like a normal subject which I finished in for like say what, one semester. And I think the PhD is just like a couple of another semesters which I can finish it with. I think even I can do PhD. I was like just staring at them because no, it isn't. It isn't like that. Even if there is an established concept you want to work towards and improve it, there is immense amount of challenge you'll be facing along the way,
Hmm.
because you really need to come up with something in your topic. If not, they wouldn't really award the PhD, to be frank. So like say for example, even in my case, I was using some concepts which are good enough and well established, but I have improvised it in certain ways to link a subject which was like in terms of structural this is. So there's something called pile embedments, which is
Hmm.
like the connection between the bridge and the pile, you could say, the foundation systems. So that was very untouched. So I thought I will connect this to the existing research. So even to get to that point, I think I took 1.5 year, just like that. So the thought to come into your head, even now, the place where I work, I see that my professor like keeps telling, if you are in PhD, your mind is 24/7 in PhD. It's not
Hmm.
like, okay, I'll come at 9, go at 5 and sleep. It's not like that. You keep thinking about that, only that, then you can resolve it. So there are many challenges attached to it, and you need to solve the problem. Here, it's like no one tells you what's the solution. You have to come up with one. So
Right.
that's the challenge. So this is the difference. ChatGPT cannot give you that answer. So
True. True.
at least for now.
At least for now. So that
Yeah.
that would be the right way to put it, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so what can you tell me more about your journey? Like, okay, you did PhD, a lot of papers, and how's your journey with like being a professor?
Okay. Yeah, it's very different, to be frank, because when I was a PhD, I was still a student. So I saw my professor doing so many things, like, but I could never be in his shoes, of course. But there was stages where I used to judge him as well. Like, okay, why would he spend so much time on just one figure, which we have to present like for say a couple of minutes. This is nothing. I can disclose it now. We were working for NASA actually. So
Oh
there
wow.
was there was like a STEM education system where we have to encourage students to come and participate into STEM.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there was a family cafe where all the high school students and the parents had to come in together. We had a challenge to present the research, like which we were doing, or the classes, in a very creative way that the students can understand and the parents are convinced that STEM is interesting. So there was a figure which we had to create for algebra. So I was like, this is nothing. Like, just let's put in some numbers and make it a little bit creative. But he was never convinced. He was like, no, we need improvement. So I was thinking those days, like, because I was like so naive, I guess, I don't know. But I was thinking, why would he spend so much time for a figure? But now when I get into the field, like wherein I see PhD students working under, like I understand the difference between the thought process. I want more, of course, but the students will be like, no, this is sufficient. Then I would be like, okay, this is not easy. It's very challenging, that area. But I feel very, very privileged to be where I am right now, because the place I work for is really interesting. Like, we do lots of research work, and it's always challenging. So for me, I kind of am addicted to that area, like the research especially, and creating like new things or facing challenges in life is always like, when you solve it, the happiness you get is like really good, right? So my position is more towards research. Actually, it's called like research assistant professor. So it's more aligned towards research, which I always wanted. So yeah, I'm quite enjoying it.
So remind me again which university you teach in?
I am in Florida International University,
FIU.
Miami. Yes, FIO.
Um, so when you say research oriented, so do you teach classes or you don't teach classes?
No, actually, I assist in teaching right now, like as a teaching assistant, but no, not yet. I am still in the research area.
Okay.
So the
And
position demands more of research.
how is it different from teaching? Like when you say research area, like I want to understand more. I have no
So
idea.
this position is like called research assistant professor.
Mm-hmm.
So you are like a professor towards research areas, like where you guide PhD students to do better at the
Got it.
research, or you
Mm-hmm.
help with the director of the center. There is like a transportation center for different universities. So FIU has one too, and we have a director whom like I work for basically. So yeah, this is where the difference comes in. So he teaches most of the subjects, but I assist him in the daily activities to do better research.
Got
And of course, he supervises us and all that. But this is a position which will get you into the assistant professor eventually. So it has like upgrades.
got it. Got it.
Yes. So right
So
now I'm in this area. I mean, I chose to be around research. So
so how's the career growth gonna be then? Like you start off as what is that, assistant professor, assistant
yes.
research professor,
Yes.
and
And
then
then we be assistant professor, then we be associate professor, then full professor. That's it. So it
interesting.
goes like that.
And how many is there like particular number of years that you have to do this? Like how does that work?
Yeah, like everything has like a limit. I mean, based on your performance, they keep increasing the position, of course. So I would say 3 to 4 years in this position, and then we go to the tenure track. It's called like
Mm-hmm.
tenure track assistant professor or something like that, and that depends on your performance of getting proposals and all that. It
Mm-hmm.
usually takes typically 7 to 8 years to
Got
be
it.
in that and move to the next level. So
And do you get summers off as well? Or you work
yes.
like
No, like right now I do work,
mm-hmm.
but the holidays are still holidays. Like when we have the university off, we are off. But
Got it,
yes,
got it.
we can still take a leave, um, a paid leave or something like that. I mean, like the regular ones.
Regular
But
ones.
yeah, we do have the summer break, winter break, and spring break, these kind of things. Whichever, whenever the university is closed, we don't work.
Got it.
It's like that.
And what is your take on education system? Like, do you like what's happening? Do you want any changes in the education system? What is your take on it?
Yeah, I think so far what I've realized, like studying abroad as well, like not only in India, after seeing Europe's culture of education and then coming to America, I guess after they made an online system for these classes, people started disconnecting a bit, I feel. So they tend to use more of like technology, you know, in terms of assistance, because they don't feel that connection, I believe, anymore. So maybe that could be one of the reasons there is a shift in like education system after COVID, I would say, in particular.
Mm-hmm.
And many want like the easy way, so they understood that, you know, they don't have to go to a class really to attend it. So they got used to the online kind of systems, and then of course they are like nowadays using chat gpt to work on things which is very difficult for us to track. So the only problem is with that. And whereas when I went to Europe, I didn't have no written exam. It was always oral. So I had to go meet with the professor and answer in front of him. Even if it was a derivation, we had to derive it in front of him. So there is a system called oral examinations over there. They have 2 midterms and a final. That's it. Sometimes a project. Same like here. But all these exams, like the midterms and finals, were all in person with the professor, and you will have to answer it orally, like when he questions you. So I felt that was more challenging because there is no scope to escape, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if he asked me to derive an equation, for example, I had to do it in front of him. So each student was assigned like 30 minutes, approximately 30 to 40 minutes, wherein they asked like some critical thinking questions and two derivations on an average. And they would understand based on that. So I think this kind of system also helps the upcoming generations like to learn better, I feel. That's
Mm,
one of the change, if I would say, yeah, would help us.
got it, got it.
Mhm.
And talk about online education, right? I see both the sides to the coin. I'm a huge proponent of going to college because I like the social aspect of it. I
Yes.
like the aspect of meeting new people, you know, just talking to them and learning their cultural background or hang out with them and going out for a drink or something. But I see the other side where like people who do not want to be social, like
Hmm.
they would want to like, why would I go to a class when I can do everything at my home and I can use this time to do something else or use this time to spend time with the family.
Hmm.
So, I'm when someone asks like that, I have no answer or I have nothing to say about it. So when you say like people like the online thing is an issue, like why do you think it's an issue?
It's okay. Now, if you talk about people who are really interested to do the online exams, that means they're already dedicated towards finishing it up as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
But most of them don't prefer it. Like we had a survey in one of the like research papers or something I read around. Like there was a book also published, I guess. So they had like 80% preference towards in person versus 20 online.
Mm,
So yeah, but these 20% were all like towards academia. They
got it.
wanted to go towards research areas or something like that. So they are already focused enough, I guess, to handle online exams. Say for example, my PhD, if there was online, it was so useful for me because I would just do the classes whenever and continue with my research immediately after, right? I
Uh,
would prefer that too. But say like people who really want to learn and socialize, for them it's a pain. If you put them in home, I don't think they will study. Like they will
yeah,
lose interest eventually, right?
yeah,
So there is pros and cons for everything, I guess. But for introverts, I think education is to come and learn. So I don't know how to really react to that. Yeah, but getting social, maybe they would end up liking being social after the course of study.
absolutely.
Yeah.
True, true. I agree. What is your what is your tips for someone who says like, okay, I'm into structural engineering and I want to do some research, I want to get a PhD in this. What are your tips for those new, I mean, I wouldn't say newcomers, someone who's an enthusiast in structural engineering?
Yeah, I would say like you have to be passionate about it to start off with.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you think just like randomly that, oh yeah, I can do a PhD and I can just finish it, like say already put a timeline saying I want to finish it in 3 4 years, or do something very easy and still get a PhD, I wouldn't prefer for them to come here. But yes, like you said, if they are really interested and enthusiastic about it, they should already work towards it. There is so much ground study you should do actually for a PhD. So even before joining a position, you need to understand what the center or what the university is up to, what the department is up to, in which area they are focusing, or if there is like specific professor you're looking for. So you need to understand him as well. Like if you think he will encourage you towards your growth, or what is his priorities, or how he would want you to be associated with the university in the future, or we never know, is he flexible enough to make you choose your topics or work towards your area, your interests. All these matter a lot for PhD, because sometimes what happens is you end up in a PhD position which is not tough for people who study or like who want to study, like do research. So and then they realize at a later point that this is not my field. So this is a trouble for both the professor and the student, because both of them get a rapport developed, like and it would be difficult after spending 1 year on a student to come to another one and again start off. It's like a lot of work. So for the upcoming generations, I would say like whoever wants to get into PhD, first do the ground study and understand if that is your area of study
Mm,
or not, and understand the professor you're going to. That matters the most, and how he works and how he wants you to work. That's the key to success, like to finish the PhD, I would
wow.
say.
And what I understand is like picking a professor is the most important aspect of the study. And is there any platforms? Is there any website that a person can go look into it? Like, and if, say someone from India or someone even from US, like if they're choosing to do studies in US or abroad, like is there any website that they can go to, or is there any kind of country that they can look into? Like I know mechanical engineering for them, like being in Germany is the best, right? You
Yes.
have like all big names there. So
Mm-hmm.
is it a similar thing with the structural engineering too? Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, actually, this question is the most asked one for me. Like many ask about this. I would say, like, based on my personal experience, how I decided where I want to go is like I set the alignment. Like, I wanted structural engineering to start off. Then, when I went to masters, like I said, I was in Italy and I saw the PISA. Then I went into the soil a bit. So I thought, okay, geotechnical is my stream. Then I started looking for subjects and professors and universities which were towards that area.
And you
Then,
looked, did you look everywhere, or did you look US, or did you look Italy? Like
no,
what was
everywhere,
all of?
everywhere.
Okay, okay.
Even before Italy, I actually wanted to go to New Zealand. I almost
Okay.
got selected for the program, but the funding wasn't enough, like to support myself. So I decided to move to Italy. That was my second option,
Mm-hmm.
actually. But yeah, where I searched for these is like Google, to be frank. I mean, there was no specific website, but there is a website where you can search for the professors by itself. So we
Mm-hmm.
have something called Google Scholar profiles,
Mm-hmm.
ResearchGate profiles, all these which we use. And LinkedIn, of course, nowadays is like so famous. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I used to browse through the Google Scholar profiles. So whenever I used to go to a university, like say for example their website, first thing I do is go to the faculty section. I literally choose, okay, is geotechnical or structural? Okay, let me see what is his profile. One interesting thing, I would say for me, at least for me, was I also saw how social the professor was. Yeah, because that's something, I don't know if I have to make a comment, but there is a judgment that happens. If you're also social and if you're a PhD, they're like, how is she managing? Kind of question pops in, right? So only a professor who is in that angle can understand it. Like doing,
Got
like performing some hobby and studying together. So yeah, my another criteria was that. So it's basically matching your interest. He should understand what you want to do, like when you're
it.
he or she, I mean, whenever you get into some professor's life for like 5 years, which is not easy because they are going to spend most of the time with you.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to really understand what their life is, how much importance they give to family as well, and what is their scope like for the future, what they want you to do. So yeah, this is pretty much what you should look for.
And
Of course, the
all
support
of
from university.
all of these will be listed in the professor's profile.
No. So in professors' profiles like Google Scholar and all this, it's purely technical stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
what was his education in, where he did his bachelor's, master's, PhD, and or whatever. Apart from that, where were his certifications? What were his projects? What are his interests, like research interests? All this. But we have social media. We just search, we get their profiles, and we see what they are up to as well. But most of the cases, what I saw is based on reference. Like you get a PhD based on reference. So you go to a professor, like say I was working with one of the professors in Italy, he referred me here. And then he referred me elsewhere. And then again, I searched for someone else. So it was like based on references most of the time.
Okay. To my understanding, then it's reference and stalk the professor pretty well.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. I don't know if I have to say stalk because they will start stalking me. I'm scared of that. I already get, you know what? Recently, I was working with some of the students from undergrad level. Okay. So I saw they got a message. My number, my phone number, my name, everything is listed. They were saying, okay, can you meet in the lab now? I was not even in the lab. They were like, I was like, oh my God, this is too much. So, there
Yeah,
is
I
some
mean,
kind of, yeah,
cool.
you need to be safe too. But yeah, I wouldn't say stalk so easily because I don't want to fall into that category. But yeah, you need to understand
Got
what
it,
you.
got it, got it. Um, so switching gears from structural engineering, let's switch gears to like hobby and personal interest.
Mm-hmm,
So you have a lot of personal interests. I've spent a decent amount of time with you.
mm-hmm,
Um, you had your own business with social media going on before, and now
mm-hmm.
you started your own NGO. Can you talk more about that?
This one was in my list, like a bucket list, since a long time now. When I was doing my bachelor's, I believe, actually, even before that. When I was doing my diploma, I've seen some students who came in like to the college, really worried every day. So they couldn't really focus sometimes on studies as well due to several reasons, you know. And I got close to them, like they were my classmates. So I got close to them. I got to know it's majorly because of financial issues. So it was always like a pain for them to pay a fee or even study sometimes. So they have been like searching for ways. Of course, there are many platforms right now which helps people, but this was also a part of my list that I have to have or own like a non-profit organization where it supports people who want to really study and grow. And like we discussed earlier in this conversation, there's something called knowledge transfer. Many were like conservative about it before, but I believe that you need to transfer what you learn. So that's when like the upcoming generations perform better. So this is one of the primary focus for me to start up such a thing. I know that to put it into action, it takes like 3 to 4 years, they said. So I thought, okay, why not like try learn about it? And I really don't want to take like external help yet. I'm trying to understand the model, like how to build the working model, the funding model, and where it can take me, all that stuff right now. So, but primary focus was based on this. Yeah.
Is to help knowledge transfer among students,
Yes, and support people who cannot afford high quality education.
financial support.
So, yeah, financial eventually, but initially, I think I am like putting in efforts to ask professors, like well established professors, to give me some training modules which I can distribute for people who are in need. And then eventually, of course, I would like get time to get some sponsors for, you know, funding the education and all that. That's the idea.
That's amazing. Like, it's always something amazing that, when you give back to the community, like, you have been, I'm sure, like, some of, giving back to the community comes from you going through something, right? You might have been through something similar and you've been there, and it's way easier to empathize someone in that situation and feeling that I have to get back. It's a very, very humble effort from you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the example I gave in to you was like way in diploma, right? But when I was doing my PhD, I had like some issues like with the paperwork or something which got delayed. The very first semester I came in, I had to pay like $15,000 upfront due to some reasons, like some issues. They might like they told they might refund it to me later, but then it was like all of a sudden I didn't plan for it. And that point I felt, you know, it's like very important to be supported in education. Like the financial stress cannot let you study well, from what I have observed. So this is one of the experiences I had, but luckily, of course, I have support. Imagine if I didn't have it, I would be in trouble too, right? So that was like, it hit me hard too. I thought it's useful for people to, like, especially who want to really study and work towards themselves. I think it's important we support them. So,
Got
yeah,
it.
that's one of the best
It's awesome.
reasons.
I hope, like, all your future plans through this NGO should flourish. Definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm working towards
Awesome.
that.
And what is the driving motivation to you? Like, you do a lot of stuff. You're into, like I said, you're into motorcycle riding. You go on long motorcycle rides. You are into
Mm-hmm.
education. You do a lot of research. Um, and you're very, very close to your students, because I know whenever we go out for dinner, you always get students with you out for dinner too. And you
Yes.
are building your own NGO. And I think you have your own company too. I remember you had a social media company that you were running for a bit when you were in college. So what
Mm-hmm.
drives you to do all these things? What is that motivating factor?
Okay, so sometimes, you know what, I question myself. How am I even doing these? No, really. But I think at some point of time, like the crucial time, I would say, like when we lost our dad, all of the family fell a bit, you know. We were doing like very well off, and then suddenly we are like clueless. So that kind of shift created a kind of trauma, in everyone's mind. But luckily, we had our mom who was always like putting us up, saying that you need to be independent. So she said we always have to have like a side hobby, which is away from your work. So something which keeps you active but happy also. At workplace sometimes it's tough to do that, right? So you always have to have something which you like. So for example, when I was like 17, I guess, I used to love hosting, like doing shows like for anchoring kind of stuff. So I started getting into hosting like for like press meets and some corporate shows, then some events as well. And I loved socializing with the crowd, like me. So I love that. I love to talk to people, understand their life. Like if they are like blending in with me, I want to keep them close to me. So I am happy too. So this is one of the reasons you see some of my students with me. So they are like more like family to me, because it's like bonding we develop over work, which makes us think alike and also helps us like grow together. I believe in that concept. I don't want to grow really alone. I want people to grow with me as well. So that's one of the reasons I want the same like-minded people to be with me, so that they can help me also maybe at some point, to correct me, or we grow together. But yes, so when I started this hosting and all that stuff, and then I went to Italy, of course it was traveling which made me have that kind of leisure, which made me get back to research. So these were all like I would say something which I love to do, I wanted to do. So at each phase, I selected those. So I wanted to even photograph at some point, and then when I got the time in PhD, I thought that was the easiest to choose, so I chose that. So it just took me like some time to put it into public and show, okay, well, these are what I was doing and all that stuff. But yes, I did what I love to do, and that was like a hobby always. So I keep all these as hobby points, I could say. I don't know. So yeah, but what drives me towards that, I don't know. I wake up with that energy.
That's for
So,
sure. Like, I've seen you even when I moved to Boca initially, like you and Arjun let me stay in your house for 2 weeks. Like you were always a bundle of energy, from morning till
mm,
evening. Helping me out with the food and everything. Like you mentioned an important point. Like having like not only you going forward, but having people come with you and help them achieve their own goal. It's a big thing. What is that quote that I always mention is, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together.
yes.
Do you have any last words for the viewers of this podcast to stick around this long?
To be frank, I now want to share that even you are no less. Like you also always put like a priority list, I feel, which you focus and do things you like as well, right? For example, this is one such thing. I've already been showing this podcast like to so many friends of mine. I was like publicizing it, like saying, see, he always wanted something like this. And I keep talking about you in general. And I was telling, like, so excited to do something for you as well. So yeah, growing from that group of friends where we were talking about what to eat, what to
Exactly.
what food to cook. You remember the tacos I used to do? I, I experimented so many things on so many people. I cannot tell you. Yeah, growing from there to where we are right now, it feels really surreal, right? Like I think we grew together too. This is what I meant. Yeah. So this is the main idea. I love doing that, and you are doing that. So thank you for making us a part of this.
I mean, I'm definitely humbled by your words, and it means a lot that you talk to your friends about this podcast and you're supporting me so much. Like I always feel like when I have people around me supporting me and being there for me, like you are a friend. It's like you had a long day. For you, it would have been easy to say no, Raghu, I cannot do it, but you took the time out to be here with me. It's almost 10 p.m. and helping me out. It means a lot. It's like we all grow together. And you brought up really good point about our past, where we used to decide what to cook on. Find what is a weekly special to go get it. Arjun was good in that. And then evening, you used to experiment with tacos, going and getting something. But yeah, it's when we talk about it, it's like it makes me think. It's not that you know the 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 ultimate thing that we eat or that we get what makes us happy. It's just the journey that we took together, the moments that we went through, and the process of even putting the tacos together, how much fun we had, where we were making fun of each other, and just having fun. I think that's what the whole life is about. It's enjoying the journey.
Yes, that's true. That's true. These are all memories. Like, what? It's like 5 years already. I cannot believe it.
um yeah, almost, no,
Yeah.
6 years,
Oh, yeah.
2017. Yeah.
Yes. My God.
Yeah,
I
it's
can't
amazing.
forget that even. Yeah. So we have always like, see, I think that's the thing I want to appreciate about you. You have always been looking for things you want to do and you love. And I would pray for more for you, in that way. And this is one of the platform which I think can give immense knowledge transfer as well, right? Like podcasts. So I highly appreciate you taking the time as well to do all this. It's like really interesting.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really overwhelmed by your words and very humbled by it. Yeah, I mean, nothing's going to stop me until I want to stop myself. So I believe in that, and yeah, keep it going day by day.
Sure, yes.
Awesome. Thank you once again, and viewers, thank you so much for sticking around for the podcast and listening and supporting me. Ankita, thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you all.